Hanukkah to each of you. I got to tell you, it's a beautiful thing to see all of you here today.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're delighted to have you here, and we're delighted to be joined by those that are viewing online. And for those online, yes, we're a little behind our normal schedule. We've had a season in the spirit in the Ruach for a while today. And to be honest with you, we've needed that.
Yes. Yes.
What happens when your well goes dry? Sometimes you have to dig in that well till you find a new vein of water.
Deeper.
Go a little deeper.
Yes.
It's there.
So we pulled some dirt out of the well today, and the water has started flowing.
Yeah.
And for that, Yah, we give you thanks and praise. What a season that we're in. I was sharing with the men while we were preparing to pray a little while ago, the humorous line pertaining to the festivals, especially Hanukkah and Purim, among our Jewish friends and family, is they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat.
Amen.
And that's what we're doing. We are rejoicing. Hanukkah is an awesome season, focusing on receiving again the light, reflecting the light, fresh oil,
Yes.
rededication of the temple, cleansing, Johnny, those things that are defiling our temple. And Reldon, can you turn this mic down just slightly? There's a little bit of a ring, not necessarily a ring, a little echo or something other going on there. Don't want to be problematic in the audio. Let's go to, that's a little too much. Maybe it's adjustment on the gain. That's about perfect right there. Thank you. And Bereshit of Genesis 41, going to be a little bit of reading today, 1 through 14. But these verses set the tone for the entire Torah portion. Notice the phrasing here at the beginning, and it came to be at the end, Mikeitz. At the end of 2 years' time, that Pharaoh had a dream and saw him standing by the river. 7 cows coming up out of the river, looking beautiful looking and fat, and they fed among the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up after them out of the river, ugly and lean of flesh, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and lean of flesh cows ate up the 7 beautiful looking and fat cows. And then Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed a second time. And saw 7 heads of grain coming up on one stalk. What else do we see 7 of on one stalk? The menorah. Plump and good, and saw 7 lean heads scorched by the east wind coming up after them. The 7 lean heads swallowed up the 7 plump and complete heads. And Pharaoh awoke and saw it was a dream. It came to be in the morning that his spirit was moved, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Mitzrayim and all its wise men. And Pharaoh related to them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for him, or for Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my crimes today. When Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker, each one of us dreamed a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. There was with us a Hebrew youth, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we related to him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to be as he interpreted for us, so it came to be. He restored me to my office and he hanged them. Verse 14 then. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they hurriedly, with speed, they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon, and he shaved and changed his garments and came to Pharaoh. I want to talk today about the 2-year compression effect. Rather than a paragraph form opening, I want to do some discovery with you to begin this today. So, let's ask a question. What is our primary mission as believers and as followers of Yeshua, as those seeking to be observant of his word? What is the primary goal or role of responsibility for us in our community and in our environment? Or you might say, what is our divine mission?
Be a light for Yeshua.
All right, I'm going to write some answers down. Be a light. Anyone else got something you would offer on that?
To bring others to him.
All right. Okay.
Wait.
What does he want us to do?
Love.
Love one another.
Love. Someone said one another. All right.
Obedience.
Be obedient. Couple more. You want?
There is a scripture.
Compassion is
Sorry.
Have compassion.
Forgive.
Oh, you went to meddling. Okay.
There's a scripture that says, keep yourself pure. So we need to be clean before we are able to, so people, when we reach out to them, they don't challenge us because of our behavior.
Okay. The overall bigger, the summation, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. All of these things, and all of these things are correct. You've spoken well. You've spoken correct. I love the way the members of the Chabad put this. And that is that our job is to diffuse the reality of the Creator in our environment or community or in our realm of influence. I caught that.
I don't understand that.
Huh?
I don't understand.
Do you have a hairdryer?
I understand diffuse.
Okay, diffuse. So if you put a diffuser on the hairdryer, it just spreads the volume out. If you have a diffuser for essential oils, it ionizes it and diffuses it into the room. He has poured himself into us as a diffusing mechanism, then that we diffuse his reality wherever we go. He has put his light in us, so we let that light shine out of us. He has brought us to himself, so we go and we bring others to him. He has certainly loved us, And the love of Yah motivates us then to love others, not just with our own heart affection, but with His. Sometimes I have to grab His love more than anything else because I might be struggling on the love of my own part. You've heard the phrase, I love you, I just don't like you very much. Laura told me that a couple of times one time. Yes, she did.
We forgave him.
But
We forgave him.
we worked it out.
Boy, he was terrible.
I'm not crawling down in that hole. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
All right, so let's look at the other side of this coin or equation and ask this question. In your estimation, what is the greatest, let's use the word opposition, let's use the word hindrance, maybe we could use the word challenge to our mission? Oh. Did you say that? Who said that?
I'll claim it.
Man,
You might even throw self in there.
Yeah,
Self-sufficient.
We're all people.
I have my own greatest hindrance.
how's the time?
Fear.
Fear.
I have my own greatest interference or hindrance.
Yeah, I got self up here. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Lazy.
Lazy?
Pride.
Pride, it's a good word.
Pride's good.
Procrastination.
It's really
Do I have arrows sticking out of my back?
unforgiveness will hinder us.
Wait a minute. Laura said forgive, and then she said unforgiveness.
Human too.
I got a feeling I'm going to be having a conversation before too long.
Being too busy.
All right, busyness. Business. Being busy.
Diversion.
Busyness.
What did you say, William?
Diversion.
Diversion.
Distraction.
Now we're heading somewhere. Distractions.
Busyness is distraction.
TV.
Distraction.
Just think how much if I personally did not watch television, what I could accomplish. I'm right there with you, sister.
It's all in the name
Come
of
home from work and I turn on
television.
the television.
Let me share with you a reading, and as I read this, see how these things might, in their element, pertain to what I share with you. And this is from, again, it's from Chabad.org, the Quixote's commentary. And the commentator says this, and I quote, "The essence of exile is living under the control of some power that deprives us of the freedom to live our lives as God would like us to. It is immaterial whether that power is political, social, or psychological. Whether we submit to it unwillingly or willingly, whether we are physically located in our native country or not. Whatever the case, exile is the mentality that we must constantly seek the approval or bend to the will of an authority whose values are contrary to ours." I want to read that last part again. The exile is the mentality, the mindset that we must constantly seek the approval or bend to the will of an authority whose values are contrary to ours. Even if the authority, my insert here, doesn't wear a badge or have a title, it may be just the pressure of the authority that our society demands. Adhere, assimilate, agree with, go along. Continuing. Being in exile is thus the single most challenging obstacle to living up to our divine potential, fulfilling God's will, and following our life's true calling. All of these elements, in some way, reflect a variety of characteristics of our exile. One would assume, if I were in the land of Israel where Torah is understood, where Shabbat is already a cultural ceasing of work, where time off is already understood and allowed for pertaining to the feast days, where the food selection and the marketplaces is already scrutinized, it would be so much easier for me just to live uprightly. And yet, statistics show that only about 20% of the Israeli population at this point would consider themselves observant. In 2015, Laura and I accompanied Joyce and Sam and some others, and we were in Tiberia, and it was the feast day of Shavuot. Laura and I took a walk. We went up and down the sidewalk of this beautiful little city right along the edge of the Kinneret. Is it Kinneret or Kinneret?
Depends on
The Galilee.
what sign you have.
And we walked to the blasting of people's stereos as they were camping along the shoreline of the sea. And we walked to the rhythms of Leonard Skinner and Van Halen. We're Shavuot, and the shopkeepers were frustrated with their arms folded, standing outside of their closed shops, which by law had to be closed for Shavuot and observance, and they were losing business. Now, if we were in Jerusalem, it would have been a much more focused observance, one would think. But even in Jerusalem, that's not always the case. What I'm saying is, whether you're in the land or in exile, there are societal, psychological, cultural, legal issues, personal things that keep you from really focusing on the things that you need to focus on. Let's consider the struggle between Yaakov and Isaf. As we have read the storyline, each one of them have wanted what the blessing we call Bekira. The Bekira is a very important one because it is the blessing of the seed. That is, you're the progenitor of the seed. You're the ongoing seed that will produce the one promised in Bereshit of Genesis 3:15. The promised one who will come and deliver us from our fallen malady found in the garden. You carry the seed, and you are then the one who inherits the land that was promised to Abraham in Bereshit 15, from the river of Mitzrayim, or the Nile, all the way to the Euphrates. That's a land inheritance that has never been fully realized yet. When the seed comes, Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, says that you and I are joint heirs with him. We do not displace anybody. We're not going to the land that is between the rivers and taking any Jewish family's land. There is other lands, cities, towns, houses, and a desert domain with rivers under it that will be released, and it will become like the Garden of Eden, the prophet said. We're going to have a place to go.
Amen.
Thank you, Father. We have the Bekira, but Esau and Yaakov were wrestling over who was going to carry this. Abraham received it from Yah. Yitzhak or Isaac received it from Yah. Yaakov received it from Yah. After he wrestled, in his dealings with Esau, he had to wrestle to some degree with Esau, and even after he received it, Esau still wanted it. They each wanted the Bekira. They wanted the upper hand of the family. And a couple of weeks ago, we studied about, in the Torah portion, how that they reconciled momentarily. The invitation from Esau was, Yaakov, my brother, why don't you and your family come and dwell with us at Edom? Yaakov very wisely said, y'all move faster than we do. You just go ahead, and I had to move at the pace of the little ones. Don't wait on us. Just go ahead. We'll join you later. That reunion is not taking place yet. As Israel, the man knew that his mission was to be set apart, to be clean. That he had in his mission the role of, I need to continue the lineage that will produce the promised one, the Messiah. And I need to build this family into a nation that my children will become Am Israel, the people of Israel. Why? Because it is through this nation that Yah has prophesied all the way back to Abraham, in you and in your seed, all of the earth is to be blessed. He has to raise up a family to become a nation to fulfill that prophecy. Prophecies are not something that we sit on the front porch and wait to see if they happen. Prophecies are our job description. If Yah has prophesied that something's going to happen, we are the means. We are the hands, the feet, the work, the laborers that will get that job done. So we're not sitting back and waiting for the kingdom to come. We're actively engaged in praying that it come and doing our roles and responsibility to diffuse his presence in our environment. The problem is we're hindered and challenged. Esau was discerned to be ill-fitted for the purpose that Yaakov was going to walk in. He needed refining and delivering before he could be involved in the restoration of righteousness. Now, how does that fit to our storyline today? Well, understand this then. Get the right guy here. Joseph's brothers also were contending for this same blessing, not realizing that it's not going to go to one, but it's coming to all, each one having a component. But they acted like Esau. They thought, let's kill our competition. What did Cain do? He killed his competition. What happened between Isaac or Yitzhak and Ishmael? Ishmael wanted to kill his competition. What happened with Esau and Yaakov? Esau wanted to kill his competition. What happened with Joseph and his brothers? The brothers wanted to kill their competition. What happened with David Hamelech, David the king? King Saul wanted to kill is competition. What happened in the days of Yeshua? The religious orders of that day wanted to kill their competition. They succeeded, but Yah had other plans in mind. And when it comes to inheriting the kingdom of the earth, what does Hasatan want to do in our day? He wants to eradicate his competition. But Yah has other plans.
That's right.
Yes, he does. Amen.
That's right.
We're going to Salah, just kind of pause and let that simmer just a minute. So like the threat against his life drove Yaakov to have to live with Laban. And in that process, he was further refined and made more pliable in Yah's hands. Now Joseph has been under the threat of his life, been sent down to Mitzrayim, and dwelling in Potiphar's house, and now in the prison, he has been groomed and refined in order to make him ready so that his prophetic dreams can come to pass. But as we read at the beginning here, it took an additional 2 years of time that he did not anticipate. It's going to take you longer to get to where your goal is than what you want. Because we ourselves are resistant to the process that takes us there. Doing a little salah, just kind of. There is a principle I shared with you years ago. I'm going to go back to it again. Do you have this? If you need this, can we erase this? Because I'm going to erase it right now. If you are at this level, that's where you're operating right now, and you want to get to this level, and you believe that the Father is going to increase your level. It is rare, almost never happens. I'd have never seen it done to where there is a straight advancement from one level to the other. I don't really see that happens per se. What I see happening is God drops us and then we bounce to the next level. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of Yah, that he may exalt you in due season. Pride is that which says, I'm already here. Then the only thing I need to do is step it up a little bit, and I'm going to go right there. And God says, that's good, Bubba, but I got a different plan. We see things different. You want to aspire here? Well and good. I want to take you there. I'm going to take you here first. Because if I took you from here to here, when you got there, you would be arrogant and prideful of your advancement. But I will bring you through a process by which you will be more than happy to bounce. Here's a word for somebody. With the place that you feel like you've been demoted to, it's not a demotion. It's a place of compression to release you to go higher. You're about to move up. When you've moved down, you're about to move up.
Yes.
Beyond where you were. So let's answer this question with 3 points then. What was it that Joseph needed 2 more years of compression for? Number 1, It's about being in the correct season. What does that mean? Well, number one, it means he was being kept out of the way. I don't think anybody got that one right there. If he had been released out of the prison ahead of time, he would have found a way to get in the way.
That's right. Absolutely.
We were praying for revival at Freedom Tabernacle for years. If the Father had answered our prayer the way we wanted it to be answered, having a fresh Brownsville Pentecostal, Brownsville outpouring type experience again, we would have probably never made it here because that would have gotten in the way. The revival that he answered us with was a revival to the Torah, which was not anywhere in our minds or understandings. I didn't know what the word Torah was. I was praying for what I didn't understand. That never happens. You're praying for one thing and the answer is something you have no idea what it is. I remember, I think I was in the 5th grade. We were passing out Christmas gifts in school. And somebody gave me a gift and I opened it up and it was a little block of wood about that big and square. And on the side of it was the drawing of a man's face on both sides. A block of wood. That's about half a step above a chunk of coal. And the kid came over to me and he said, I got you that. And I said, well, what is it? He said, it's a carving block. I said, what? He said, you're supposed to take a knife and you cut out all the wood that is not the face and you end up with the face. Well, I'll have a thrill with that over the holiday. I didn't know what to do with it. God gives you gifts and you say, what am I supposed to do with this?
That's true.
Yes.
You learn to walk in it.
Yes.
I don't know how to use it. I gave it to you so I can teach you.
That's right.
That means you're going to have to seek me for it.
Yes. Help us out. Help.
But I wanted what I already know how to use. Then you would have used it your way and not my way. I gave you what you don't understand, so you will seek me for the understanding. And then the gifts, power, and operation will be of me and not you. I hear him speaking to us today. Why are we struggling to, why are we compressed for 2 years? It's learning more than thought necessary about what would become necessary. You're watching a movie and you figured the plot out. And you sit back with your arms folded and your wife, like mine, is saying, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? Where are they going? What's he saying? What's he going to do? When you watch TV with Laura, you had to do like this. You listen to the TV with one ear and you plug her out with the other.
That hole's getting bigger.
Forgive and forgiveness, Laura. Forgive and forgiveness. Okay, y'all pray. Fast and pray until we get to Lynn's house. Anyway, you think you got the plot figured out, and then there's a twist at the end, and you never saw that coming. What do we do? In the spirit realm of things, we think we've already got it figured out. We've already drawn our timeline of the last days. And we know where we're at in the book of Revelation right now because we've already figured it out. There are twists and turns that you hadn't considered coming. So why are we held in check for 2 years? So that we can learn about what's necessary, even though we don't think it's necessary. The word Mikeitz at the end, it's rooted in the idea of ketz, K-E-T-Z, and it means end, but it also means not just the end, but the extremity or the extreme end. In other words, Yah does not always do what Yeshua said he would do in our day, that he would shorten the time. In the fullness of time, and I dare say that if you would trace it out, it will be to the day Messiah was born. And when Rav Shul talks about the fullness of the Goyim or the Gentiles, that means it's not happening until the last one, the very last one is included, that is intended. In the book of Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 6 and verse 13, Elohim said to Noah, the end, the Mikeitz, the ketz of all flesh has come before me. The absolute extreme end, I've had it, I'm done. There is no more mercy to be offered. And Shemot, or Exodus 12 and 41. And it came to be at the end, the ketz of 430 years, on that same day, to the day, it came to be that all the divisions of Yahweh went out from the land of Mitzrayim. He carried it to the last hour and minute of the last day. And Devarim, or Deuteronomy 15 and 1, at the end of every 7 years, you make a release of debts. You wait until the end. Here's a question for us. While we're waiting for our door to open, are we preparing or pouting? Hey, I had the same feeling when they gave me that line. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Are we preparing or pouting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm preparing, but my bottom lip is stuck out. Isn't it amazing that adults still pout?
Yeah.
I'm not going to camp out there. I'm going to move on. Father, we just pray for mercy right now in the house. In 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 3 through 7. Rashul is right, huh? Yes.
If you rush off of that, you need to realize that pouting is a form of witchcraft.
What?
It's mental
Manipulation.
It is manipulating and controlling someone else to give into you. What do? We pout before the master? That's not a good idea.
Wow.
Man, this has kind of got about halfway deep in here right there. So Rav Shul writes to Timothy in chapter 1, verse 3 through 7. He said, I appealed to you when I went to Macedonia to remain in Ephesus, in order to command some not to teach differently, nor to pay attention to fables or endless genealogies, which causes disputes, rather than an administration of Elohim, which is in belief. Now, the goal of this command is love, Johnny, from a clean heart, from a good conscience and a sincere belief, which some, having missed the goal, turned aside to senseless talk, wishing to be teachers of the Torah, understanding neither what they say nor concerning what they strongly affirm. I want to put this in here, and this because we're online, this needs to be stated. For a long number of years now, we have had a plethora and a large amount of Torah teachers. Not all were called. All fighting for the same sets of ears And sometimes that if you're in the middle mix of everything, saying what everyone else is saying, you need to stand yourself apart. So we move over into sensationalisms and arguments and divisive issues in order to carve out a section for ourselves. But it has been prophesied repetitively over the last year that Yah is now moving us out of the realm of the majority of influence being among teachers and bringing it back to pastors. Because the sheep, after a large variety of teachers, have been scattered on all these variety of mountains, and Yah is looking to bring his sheep back to where the fold is, where shepherds can bind up their wounds and heal them and cut off the fleece that has been long neglected and become matted and free up the sheep to become productive and life-giving again. While they've been scattered out and teachers were trying to draw the sheep to themselves, they weren't paying attention, and wolves have been grabbing sheep out of the flock. So Yah is raising up a pastoral heart. But these are no mere passive shepherds. They have a warrior mentality. They not only carry a staff, but they bear the shield and they carry a sword. They have on the armor of the Most High.
Yes.
If you try to come take their sheep, they'll kill you. You come like a lion, like a bear, like a wolf, you will die in your effort because shepherds will give themselves for their sheep. Yah, from Jeremiah 23 and also from the book of Ezekiel, is raising up these warrior shepherds. Don't mess with them. In 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1 through 6. Trustworthy is the word. If a man longs for the position of an overseer, he desires a good work. An overseer should be blameless, the husband of one wife, sober, sensible, orderly, kind to strangers, able to teach, not given to wine. Didn't say he didn't drink wine. He's not just given to it. No brawler, which if you're not given to wine, that helps on that aspect. But gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of silver, one who rules his own house well, having his children in subjection with all reverence. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how shall he look after the assembly of Elohim? And then this is important. Joseph, listen, not a new convert, lest he become puffed up with pride and fall into the judgment of the devil. Joseph simply wasn't ready yet. And Yah held him in confinement in a place of compression for an additional 2 years on purpose. In 2 Timothy 2:15, Rav Shaul says to Timothy, do your utmost to present yourself approved to Elohim. A worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Learn how to do that. So while Joseph certainly had a prophetic destiny given to him in teenager dreams, he had to be fashioned and shaped and prepared to take on that role of leadership. Think about this. If he had come into the fulfillment of those dreams while he was living with his family in the land of Israel, they would have all starved when the famine hit. Yah had to pluck him out of his comfort zone and send him down to a trying zone, a confining zone, a compressing zone, to change them into the man that would rise up, not just feeding a family, but feed the earth. Yah's got a bigger destiny for you and for this congregation and for the house of Joseph than what we are currently looking at in the mirror.
Amen.
Do not belittle yourself. Stop speaking harshly to yourself. Do not let the words, I'm a nobody, or I'm a nothing, or I can't, or I never get to, or I will never be able to. Stop letting those things come out of your mouth. You're destined, you're chosen, you're selected, you're armored, you're called, you're anointed, you're set apart. Yah has a work that He's doing through you already. You just don't recognize the extent of it. Why? Because you're in the compression zone. You've not been released yet. House of David has been in a 20-year compression zone. Put on your rocket helmets. We're about to be propelled. Boy, that got a flat nothing.
Come on now. Yes. Thank you.
In the middle 90s, 1990s, Laura and I had been compressed for 2 years, along with Amber and Andrea, and the mountain community of Wise County. An extremely religious, old-line religious community. Wonderful people and town. We loved the town. The town was great. It was the religious community that was oppressive. And Laura and I were praying about a needed release. The compression had had full effect. It was time to go. We just didn't know where we were going. And I forget the reason why, but we were home with Mom and Dad in Martinsville. And we were praying at Mom and Dad's house in Grassy Creek. My cousin Ronnie Hopkins was there. And Ronnie at times has a gift of prophecy that he operates in. We're all praying. We're praying powerfully in the Spirit and so on. And I noticed that Ronnie is just captivated over in a corner of the room, lost in something. And when all the amens had been offered, he looked at Laura and I and he gave us this prophecy. He said, I saw you and Laura dressed in wedding garments, standing on the sidewalk. And out of the ground beside the sidewalk, a church came up out of the ground. And Yah says that He is going to marry you and Laura to that church. Now again, this is mid-90s, we were in the church environment, church world. Yah was showing him terminology and a vision that he could understand. So when we got to Freedom Tabernacle, New Life at the time, there's a sidewalk. You went right down the side of the church. And I'm standing out there on the sidewalk and said, this is what Ronnie saw. We're being married to the Church of God in Gloucester. No, because that church was already out of the ground. He birthed House of David up out of the ground. And He has wedded Laura and I to this congregation. I just didn't know that it was going to take almost 6 years of compression for that to take place. Point 2. We're moving along. We really are. Point number 2. We're being tested to retain our gift. Or we could say gifts. Our prophetic callings. In other words, will you let go of it or not? Think about this. When we read the book of Daniel, we see him going from one great event to the next, to a prophecy, to an angelic visitation, to writing on the wall, to visions and dreams and so forth. Can I tell you that the man went to Babylon in his teen years, and he lived to be in his middle 80s. And there were many years and there were many days that there were no dreams, no visions, and he did not have a messenger to visit him. He simply went about his job and went home. You don't get miracles every day. You don't do signs and wonders necessarily every day. You don't have wow moments and fresh manna piling on top of your plate on a daily basis unless you watch 10-minute Torah all the time. But besides that, shameless self-promotion. That's bad, won't it? You don't get wow moments every day. Some days your job in the kingdom is to get up and be faithful to your job and to your duties and come home to your family and do what you need at the home and go back to bed. Being faithful and learning to be trustworthy and learning to be consistent and learning to retain proper focus. Yeshua waited for 30 years before he really began to demonstrate who he really was. Why? Being tested, being proved, learning to do the jobs of the family. We say he was a carpenter in a carpenter shop. More than likely that terminology referenced him to be one who cut stones for stone building. Eliyahu HaNavi, Elijah the prophet, he walked in a superior and incredible anointing as a prophet. God says, I want you to go and call Elisha to be your protege, your servant. So he walks by, he takes his mantle, he throws it over onto Elisha, who's plowing with a yoke of oxen. And he leaves the oxen and comes running to him. Let me go kiss mom and dad goodbye, and I'll be right here. I'll be right back. Eliyahu says, what have I done? He tells his parents goodbye. He comes back. He slaughters the oxen. He uses the implements of the plow and so forth. And he creates a fire and he sacrifices the oxen, cooks them and hands the meat out to the people. And then he follows Eliyahu and was his servant. Eliyahu said, if you see me when I go up, you can have a double portion of my anointing. That's what he asked for. So in 2 Kings 2:14, after Eliyahu had been taken up, the mantle comes swirling down to the ground, lands on the ground. And Elisha, took the mantle of Eliyahu that had fallen from him and struck the water and said, where is Yahweh, Elohim of Eliyahu? He struck the water and it was divided this way and that, and he passed over. Verse 15, when the sons of the prophet who were from Jericho saw him, they said, the spirit of Eliyahu rests on Elisha. Gehazi was a servant that poured water on Elisha's hands. When Naaman came to him as a leper, looking for cleansing, he offered gifts, wedges of gold and changes of garment. Elisha said, go dip in the water. I don't want to dip in that nasty water. But he ended up doing it. You know the story. He comes up, he's clean. Gehazi runs after him and says, the prophet changed his mind. He'll take some of that gift, that gold and garment stuff he was offering after all. Well, then the leprosy that was on Naaman went over onto Gehazi. 2 Kings 13, verse 20 and 21. And Elisha died and they buried him. And the raiding bands from Moab came into the land in the spring of the year. And it came to be they were burying a man. And they saw a raiding band. They cast the man to the burial site of Elisha. And the man fell and touched the bones of Elisha and came to life and stood on his feet. What does that say? The anointing was never transferred over onto someone else. It remained resident in the bones of Elisha to the point that it would also resurrect the dead. So Elisha's anointing went to the grave with him. Why? Because Gehazi couldn't stand the test. How many have been in a time of compression and isolation and proving, and they're going to come out empty-handed because they have let go of what they were called to hold on to? Do not let that happen to you. But when Joseph stood before Pharaoh in 41 verse 38, Pharaoh said to his servants, could we find another like him, a man in whom is the spirit of Elohim? The spirit of Elohim remained in him. He didn't lose, even when he was frustrated and angry, perhaps, about being confined for an additional 2 years. It will take you longer to be processed than what you're thinking is going to be required, because there's more processing than you think is necessary. I'm trying to be a blessing. So last point, and this, I'll finish with this. Prepare to be propelled. What are you talking about? I showed Laura a video this morning. I showed her a video, super slow motion video of a tennis ball being struck by a racket at 142 miles an hour. A serve. Obviously a professional serve. I don't serve that fast, so I'm not a professional tennis player. But as you watch the video, when the racket hits a ball that is basically almost at a static state, is just floating in the air. When the racket hits the ball almost is flattened into the winding or the strings of the racket, in so much that it almost becomes one with it. But then it reverses direction with high energy, being propelled now on a chosen target line, and regains its original shape in the process. But now it is moving with power and focus. But the energy that the tennis ball is now moving with came from the act of compression against a resistant force. It has been compressed and propelled. I watched another video, a super slow motion video of a golf ball being struck by Bryson DeChambeau. And if you don't know who that is, he has the fastest golf swing on the professional tour. He can take a club and hit a golf ball over 450 yards. It's not always on target, but when it is, it's an awesome thing to watch. But that hard golf ball also will become flattened to some degree at the point of impact. And then as it moves off of the face of the club, it regains its shape. Joseph's time in Potiphar's house and in the last 2 years of being in the prison served to compress him. Why? To flatten him out. To put him in a line of being propelled with greater energy than him standing in a static state. But Yah, having chosen the target line and the focus, he is now moving with power and energy and momentum. And when he is propelled, he regains his shape. Yah wants to propel you. Not just standing around. Yeshua told of the parable of the man who went into the marketplace and saw men standing around idly. What are you doing here? No one has hired me or propelled me into the field. I choose you and I propel you into the field. Yeshua said in Acts 1:8, you shall receive power when the set-apart spirit has come upon you. And you shall be my witnesses. You will be propelled by my spirit into Jerusalem, and to all Yehuda and Shemiron, and to the end of the earth. The propelling of the spirit was to move them on a chosen target line with power and authority to their targeted area where Yah wanted them. But not just going out and saying, well, this is what we saw. They offered the word of promoting Yeshua's Messiah and spoke of his resurrection with power and authority. Chapter 4, verse 33 of Acts. With great power, the emissaries gave witness to the resurrection of the Master Yeshua, and great favor was upon them all. This continued until Acts 17:6 says that the word at Thessalonica was, they who have turned the world upside down have come here too. May it be said, those that turned Gloucester upside down are now in Virginia Beach and in Richmond and in Louisa and in North Carolina.
That's right.
Somebody turned them loose and now they're running everywhere. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7 through 9. We read it, we have this treasure in earthen vessels, so that the excellence of the power might be of Elohim, not of us. I didn't compress myself. I didn't propel myself. It took the racket of Elohim to hit me and drive me and propel me. Being hard pressed or compressed on every side, but not crushed. His desire is to compress and release you and propel you, not to destroy you. He's not out to crush you. He's trying to get you to move in unction and power. Being perplexed, why is this compression taking place? I don't understand why I'm being flattened. But don't despair, he said. Being persecuted but not forsaken, being thrown down but not destroyed. Why would he allow us to be thrown down? So we can bounce.
All right.
If you take a rock and you throw it on the ground, it don't bounce. That's why he takes the heart of stone out of us and puts in a heart of flesh, because a fleshly heart will bounce in his estimation. It is in the chambers of prayer where the soul of man is compressed. When he gave me this line this morning, I had to just stop. It is in the chambers of prayer that the soul of man is compressed against the overpowering will and desires of the Father. Where our will then is reshaped and released, reshaped and released, reshaped and released with greater power and with greater authority. Moshe would enter in the tent of meeting and come out with his face shining so brightly that they couldn't look at him. Thank you. In Mark 6, verse 46 through 48, it says, and having sent them away, Yeshua, he went away to the mountain to pray. Why did Yeshua need to pray? Because the flesh of the man struggled. Is it possible to let this cup get by me? Can we do this some other way? And when evening came, the boat was in the middle of the sea. That is where his disciples were. He was alone on the land. And it says, Mark says, and seeing them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them. Now, how did he see them? The Galilee, the Kinneret, it sits at a bowl. And if you're up on the heights, you can look down on the sea and see what's taking place. They called it a sea. Basically, it's a large lake. And you can see all the way to the other side. If you're up on the Golan Heights section, the heights on that side, you can see across into Tiberias is on the other side. And the cities of Capernaum and Magdala and so forth, they're around the rim of that sea. All of those events in the life of Yeshua that took place right around the Sea of Galilee. He's up on the heights, he's praying, and he's looking down out of a chamber of prayer, and he says, my men are having a hard time being compressed and released. He starts walking on water. How does he walk on water? He prayed to that level. It says he came walking to them on the sea and he wished to pass them by. He was in the passing lane going by the boat. And they hollered at him, Master, if that's you, have me to come out there. Had Peter or Kepha prayed to that level? I don't know whether he had or not, but Yeshua had prayed to a level to where he could also cause another man to walk on the water with him. Come on out here, son. In Acts chapter 2, 120 or so people came out of the upper room of the temple arena. That area filled with the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, having been praying for days. And the crowds were amazed at the sight of it. Kepha stands up and preaches a lot shorter than I have today, and 3,000 were added. So I pouted to the Father the other day. In prayer, I was trying to get my soul compressed in the prayer chamber. And I was crying out, Father, I'm tired of reaching 10s and 20s online. Sometimes as much as 100. Father, I want to reach thousands. Where are the thousands at, Yah? Maybe I need to post some videos about a stupid cat or a bird or a rabbit or do some dumb trick.
I heard that.
You're being compressed. But I'm crying out, y'all, you can do something silly online and you get hundreds of thousands of views. And I'm trying to present the truth and offer life. And 75 here, 80 there, sometimes 100 somewhere. Where are the thousands? I don't know where they're at. But he said, you be faithful in the small things, and I will make you master and ruler of many. What does that mean? You stay in the place of compression, and when I release you, you will come forth with power, and you will be released and reshaped in due season, son, in your time.
But the people that do hear you now, and I am an example, hear you. And it's not for naught. It's not for naught.
No, and I get reminded of that. Thank you, Steve.
I'm 39 years old.
Again.
Again. So you've been talking to me for a lot of years.
I was going to make mention that when I was growing up, we were eating around the table that we were told to chew with our mouth shut. So your silence that you have right now may be because people are sitting back and chewing what you say.
That's right.
Could be. Thank you.
Good sight, George.
House of David has been locked inside four walls for a long time. But we got to find a way to bust loose. Feel like busting loose? We got to find a way to get beyond. Being online has helped, but it's not the final answer. I don't understand the timings of Yah. I don't understand the seasons. Yeshua even said it's not for you to know the times and the seasons. They're in the Father's hands. Right? Acts 1:7. But when the season comes, when the day comes, you shall be filled with power. Gloucester needs us. It is a dark place that needs light. Virginia Beach needs us. It is a very dark place that needs us. Richmond is a demonically dark place in parts, desperately needing us. The surrounding communities. Louisa's the bright spot. I mean, they got two shining spotlights over there, right? But Yah wants to cause his people to shine. Arise and shine, for your light has come. He says those that are in great or grievous or heavy darkness will rise up and come to the brightness of your shining. If you don't shine, they stay in the darkness. Now, why is it taking so long? Why are the seasons different than what we would imagine or desire? It's compression. 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 Father, that's tight enough. No, it's a little bit more. But the release. Prepare to be propelled. Yes, brother.
I think it'd be wise to remember when you're in compression, you still got to be fruitful.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like nothing's happening. It is happening. And Joseph what did he do every day? He did what he was supposed to be doing. You realize he woke up that morning looking at a normal day's routine, confined in a prison. He went to bed that night in royalty. He would have bathed and they shaved him and they cleaned him up and took him to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh changed his garments again. He changed clothes 3 times that day. Or 2 times that day. At least twice. And he was probably trying on royal robes until he went to sleep. looking in the mirror.
Mhm.
Now, it's not told how quick, but you can almost read that he turned around and gave him the robes, gave him the signet ring on his finger, a chain of gold around his neck. Who does that sound like? To me, I read that and I heard the prodigal son coming home, and the father restored him to his table.
Yes, yes.
What happened? He was in the pig pen, but he got propelled by his brokenness to go into a place of return.
Yes,
I was thinking about how Joseph tried 2 years before to release himself out of the place where he was at. He tried in his own strength. And I was thinking, at first, that creates pride. When we can make our way to where we want to be on our own. And that's why I always thought God left him there. But as you kept talking about this propulsion, all I could think of is how far would he have gone if he would have done it in his own strength?
Not very
it was
far.
so minute in comparison to the power of what God put when God propelled him, where he went, and the power behind where he was taking him was beyond anything that Joseph could have ever done in his own strength.
Agreed.
yes.
Agreed.
Unanswered prayer for a season really is a compression on the Father. Our prayers are continually going to him, and he gets compressed too. Because eventually, he's promised answers.
I think Mitchell was prophesying that right up about right. He's already said, you're speaking in agreement. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. Interesting. And what else? You got some insight or something you want to offer? Yes. Go ahead, Miss Joyce. Just speak loud so they can hear you online.
Okay, I think when you look at the very beginning of when Joseph was put into the pit, eventually is sold into Egypt, and he's put into the prison, that God was orchestrating, and it says this in the word, what you guys meant, he's talked about his brothers, what you guys meant for evil, God made this happen. God sent me here to Egypt to become the ruler and to preserve the life of all of you, my father, and all of his descendants. So I think that he put Joseph in the prison so that he would have the opportunity to associate with the right person that would then in turn tell Pharaoh, hey, I know this guy who interprets dreams. And so that's my comment. I think sometimes we're put in what seems like bad circumstances, but it may be for our own good, but it may be also for somebody else's good.
As you say that, I'm reminded that Joseph was not brought out of prison for his dream. He was brought out because of someone else's dream. His dream fulfillment was found in the dream of somebody else.
Interesting.
So you never know that someone else is dreaming a dream and has a vision that involves you and the fulfillment of what you're supposed to do. You just need to let Yah bring you together. That's why he brought Laura and I together.
You got one back. You got one back.
That pit was a little deep. You might have a little bit more climbing to do.
Oh, come on. That's a tall ladder I just offered right there. I'm all the way out of the pit. Oh, hallelujah.
Grace.
Yep.
And what else?
How about the fact that some of those thousands that you are trying to reach are being compressed right now, so they're able to receive, what you have to say.
The thousands are being compressed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We all have to grow.
Don't we though? Yeah. Anyone else?
There's steam and esteem.
Oh man, Reldon found this found this last night. He showed me on the phone. What verse is that?
John 13:32,
Yeah.
33.
He uses the word esteem 4 times in that verse. How about I turn right into it?
You did.
I did.
Wow. That's special.
John 13. It's not 13:32. I turn right to 13:32, but that's not it.
Yeah, 13:31 to 32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. I read it wrong.
Yeah, read from 31.
Read from 31 down.
When therefore he went out, Yeshua said, now the son of Adam has been esteemed, and Elohim has been esteemed in him. If Elohim has been esteemed in him, Elohim shall also esteem him in himself, and straightway esteem him.
That's a lot of speed.
Yeah, it's a lot of esteem. But Yeshua is saying the Father is going to be glorified or esteemed or exalted in me for what I do, and then what I do then is going to esteem him, and he is going to do it straightway or immediately. This is not something that's going to tarry later on. He's going to do this right now. So, Father, esteem yourself in your people straightway, hurriedly. They hurriedly brought him out. Why? It was his time. Time. Let's stand together. We're going to reassemble ourselves in the home of Lynn. And if you need directions,
6200 Halltown Road.
for those online, that was 6200 Halltown Road. I don't know if you'll get there in time. You better hurry because we're going to eat. So Yoke and I, we will have you to pray when we get to Lynn's house. Okay? My dream partner. Receive the blessing of his name. Yivarakaka Yahweh vayishmareka. Yeh Yahweh panavileka vikuneka. Isa Yahweh panavileka v'yasim leka shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give unto you shalom. Amen. Sing with me. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Chag Sameach Hanukkah. Be blessed. We'll see you reassembled here shortly.